What's up, guys? This is K-Lo, and normally I'm here to give you the lowdown on all things gaming, but welcome back to another episode of Community Kitchen, where we're cooking up the latest and greatest gaming news headlines, and who better to join me today than John Hanson? Why don't you say what's up?
What's up? Let's talk some James Bond.
I missed the prime opportunity to go Hanson, John Hanson, but
That
that's
you did.
that's a problem for another day. But before we get into any of today's conversation, we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you guys that are liking these videos, subscribing to Game Sandwich, and if you're new here, do all that and join our community Discord. Links to that is in the video description down below. But this past week, we got a nice little state of play highlighting 007 James Bond, a brand new game coming our way. And let me tell you,
007 First Light.
First Light. I was blanking on the title. Got to throw James Bond in there somewhere. But I want to
Yeah.
ask you, heading into this, what were your expectations? Were they met? Did this game blow your mind by any stretch of the word?
So I didn't really know what to have for expectations. I've been excited for this game, not because I'm a 007 fan, because I'm not really. I've never watched any of the movies. I have played GoldenEye, but outside of that, GoldenEye and Agent Under Fire are the only two games I've played. Uh, so yeah, I'm not into 007 or James Bond really, but I love the Hitman World of Assassination trilogy so much that IO Interactive has already earned my excitement.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, going into this, I was just kind of expecting, you know what, Hitman, but more gadgets, and that's really what we got, and I'm perfectly happy with that. I plus it's a lot more cinematic than I thought, but we'll get into that.
Oh, for sure. I'm much with you where it's like, all right, I know what IO Interactive does. I know their bread and butter. And for lack of better terms, I was expecting Hitman with hair. And we got that, and there's minor tweaks here and there. But I was also expecting this flair. I don't know why, but like, I've watched the James Bond movies, and I'm like, okay, this game has to have some type of higher cinematic quality as far as overall gameplay goes, where it's like big set pieces, over the top action, really in your face stuff. And I was pleasantly surprised, but I was expecting more of that Uncharted flair to kind of be sprinkled on top of what we got out of the Hitman games. And hey, like, this, it was a fairly good showing for this game overall. And now diving into gameplay, what are we feeling about this? Because I'm looking at what they implemented with like the UI, how it's like the watch is kind of your moral compass, more or less, where it's like it shows you different levels of, I assume, threat levels. There was also that little chemical thing on the bottom. Later on in the trailer, he uses it as like a little C4 thing, which was insane. But what are your thoughts on what we've seen of gameplay?
Yeah, I think it. I mean, so you really have to like split this up into two sections, I think, because first you got like the stealth section, the like, hey, I'm surveying the area, trying to figure out how I'm gonna go forward. That looks about as much as I expected. That is Hitman, essentially. I'm surveying the area. Okay, I can use this to distract the guard or knock them out. Here's some bushes that I can sneak into to avoid detection. Okay, I've got to get over here and grab this item. That is very much from Hitman. All of that stuff, yeah, okay, I knocked down a chandelier. Like, all of that is just straight from Hitman. But they did add to it a little bit. Like, there was more talking your way out of things. The using the watch, as you know, that kind of seemed like your one big gadget in this demo. It was just like, okay, this is kind of my one-stop shop. I'm going to use this to shock them, to poison them, to create a smoke bomb, like all this different stuff. But when you get into combat was where I really noted like the big changes. That is where things really got cinematic. Of course, you've got like the shooting propane tanks. It looks like the level's been set up with like propane tanks everywhere.
Yeah.
Like it was kind of insane how many explosions were going off. But outside of that, like you've got him like going up and attacking guys and stealing their guns in the middle of combat, hitting people with those guns when it's out of bullets. The plane thing where he takes control of the plane and like gets it like rocking while he's fighting them. Like, that was so freaking cool. They've really implemented a lot more environmental stuff when it comes to fighting. Like, even like grabbing people, tossing them off, jumping off with them and using them as a landing pad. Like, that stuff is not in Hitman. Hitman's combat is super basic. It's very much, okay, I'm gonna punch you or I'm gonna shoot you. Everything is very what would be the right way to describe it? It's very just like monotonous, really.
Yeah.
Like, the combat in Hitman is not what you're playing that game for. You are playing that game for the stealth action and all that stuff. James Bond looks like he is like into shooting people up. That License to Kill is doing some overwork here. So yeah, I think the gameplay looks great. I'm very excited to get my hands on it.
And to speak to that, I'm not going to call Hitman's combat clunky per se, but like there was more of a flow to what we've seen with James Bond, where he did slide across the hood of a car, then threw the gun. Then it was more of a combo into like, I'm going to shoot this guy with the shotgun at point blank, then throw it at this guy. That is where I feel the game could really shine, as far as you play these games to embody the character. And to feel that power of, I just took down 4 or 5 people with these sick combos and like I'm military trained, that's what you play this James Bond game for. And speaking to all the explosions, the amount whenever he first got to the airport, and then just things started just ramping up more and more. The build up to being on the plane, then jumping out of the plane to the mission was find a parachute. I mean, that is, I admit, the first part of this state of play, I wasn't sold. I was like, all right, like, great, like, it's Hitman. Yeah, that's what it is. But then we got into the action, and then, yeah, like, no, I am very hyped for this game.
The one thing that I have reservations about, really, is the setup of the missions and the levels themselves. One thing that I love about Hitman is every single, okay, not every single one, because the last one wasn't good, but a high majority of the levels are just wide open sandboxes. Go in here and do whatever you want to take down your target and leave. With 007, it seems like the structure has changed a little bit. It's a lot more focused on the story. It's like, hey, we have to find out about this person. We have to get this thing, whatever it is. It's not so much get in, kill, and leave. I'm a little worried that this game may be a little more linear. Because, like, you have the airport scene where it was just very much fight forward and get to the end. But then there was the part in the mansion where it was, okay, I have to find this thing. Do whatever you want to get into. So it looks like the stealth stuff might not be linear, but it looks a lot more condensed down than in Hitman. Hitman, there were a ton of different opportunities, and those are probably still, they kind of went into that with the eavesdropping thing. Like, that stuff is still there, but it doesn't look like it's as grandiose as I was kind of hoping for, really.
Yeah.
Because, like, with Hitman, like I said, except for the last level, which for some reason was on a train, I think COVID had a lot to do with that development. Everything is just so wide open. It's like, I have all this space to cover. The early look we had here, it didn't look like there was a ton of area to go into. But maybe that is because this is a very early level. Things very much could open up as we go along in the story. That would be my one thing that I'm like, hope it's not a linear game, because I want the freedom to explore and do all these things.
That was what I picked up on very early, where it's like, all right, you're having the general conversation, setting up where you're going into that giant mansion, castle, whatever have you. And then it got to the point where it's like, all right, we cut, and then it's like, oh, that bellhop looks funny. Follow his trail. They did open up later on and saying, like, hey, you can choose to face this stuff head on. You can choose to distract. And again, it's just more on rails throughout the whole thing, like what you were saying, more linear. For me, I'm trying to find the right way to articulate it, but it's like, James Bond, it feels like it's going more for, you got to pay attention to the story. The story, like, this is going to be a movie. This isn't going to be like a choose your own adventure type deal, at least from what I'm gathering. I hope I'm wrong, because James Bond, like the world or whatever you want to define that as, there's a lot there. Like, as far as like gadgets, how you go about things, potential enemies they could cook up. We still don't know who the big bad is. It's this guy in the gold face mask, but like, they're hiding that, which maybe there's a big reveal there to be had, where it's like, hey, maybe it's another big name actor. I don't know. Daniel Craig is the villain. I hope. That'd be pretty crazy.
That would be very funny.
That would be. But, you know, like, the linear aspect, I can kind of not excuse, but accept, knowing that I'm in for a cinematic experience. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, the game is so much more cinematic than Hitman, and the focus on story is definitely going to produce a better story. Hitman story, not good. I mean, let's be honest here. It's not something you pay attention to. The most story that you could probably consider interesting is Diana talking in your ear while you play through. But like the cutscenes and stuff as you enter and exit missions, like, we don't care. Like, we are there solely for the gameplay. With 007, you got to figure that with how dingy the rights holders are with that, like Amazon, and there's a family I know, but I don't remember their name, but they're like super particular about who gets their rights. You have to imagine that IO Interactive is very focused on delivering a good story here, so hopefully it turns out good. Nothing about it so far is like, has me like, oh yeah, this looks forgettable.
Exactly, and I think that's what the game needed to do. Give us a reason as to like speculate and kind of want to know what's more under this game entirely. And I think that's where the game is going to excel, where it's like, all right, you think about James Bond in closing here. You think about like the variety of missions you could encounter. I'm thinking an underwater, or like you're on a boat level. I assume there's going to be a chase down a mountain, like a snow mountain or something like that. These are possibilities, and I can't wait to see how they handle that, if they're in the game to begin with.
Yeah, Hitman had a lot of interesting set pieces. You got to figure that IO Interactive is very focused on bringing those interesting, exciting set pieces to James Bond as well. Like, I mean, we already got the fight in the plane and in the sky.
Yeah.
I 100% expect more things like that in the future.
I can't wait, but do we have any final thoughts here about James Bond?
I'm so excited. I'm also excited that it's coming out in March of next year. We've been waiting for this game for so long now. It kind of felt like one of those games that you didn't really have an idea of when it was coming out. Like, you would maybe hope that it was 2026, but I could have easily gone with, oh yeah, we're not gonna know the release date for this until like 2027, 28. The fact that it's coming out in March has me very excited.
Very pumped. Can't wait to get hands-on with this game. But as of right now, for this episode of Community Kitchen, that about does it here. I've been K-Lo, joined by John Hansen. And if you're new here, drop a like on this video, subscribe to Game Sandwich for more content just like this, and we'll see you guys next time. If you enjoyed today's video and want more content just like this, consider subscribing to Game Sandwich for all your news, rumors, and reviews. And we'll see you guys next time.